And welcome back, everybody, to the Mind Blossom. Peace, peace, peace. In this picture, in this video, I'm going to be making artwork that I call Never Lie to a Sprite. Never Lie to a Sprite number 2. Back in 2022, 2023, I made a picture called Never Lie to a Sprite, and this is the second of that series. Within the Mind Blossom, you will find a number of different ongoing series, pictures that share the same title, because they are somehow related. Never lie to a sprite. What is a sprite? A sprite is like a fairy. What is a fairy? A fairy, or the fae, F-A-E, a fae is an entity or a creature. It's a being who exists on what we call the astral plane. You can access the astral plane through your dreams and through your imagination. And there are some people who have honed and developed their psychic senses to the point where they can see into the astral plane all day long. They don't have to go to sleep at night. They don't have to try very hard to get into a deep daydream. They can see, they can observe what goes on in the astral plane in their daily waking life. Now, the astral plane is not separated from Earth by a matter of distance. It is not somewhere miles away or even in some random obscure corner of the cosmos. Everything is right here. We are all participating in the great center of all things. And so, therefore, the astral plane and the heavenly planes beyond, and even the hell realms within, all such places are separated from you not by distance, but rather by frequency, your rate of vibration. How quickly are you oscillating? The vibrations of the astral plane are more subtle. They are more fine-tuned. They are not as slow and dense as what we call the earth plane. Their vibrations are several octaves higher than what we experience here on Earth. And so from our perspective, they seem to be more, floozy is not the right word at all, but let's say ephemeral, fleeting. They don't have as much ground or earthiness to them. But really, it's all right here. And if only you could tune your inner psychic senses such that you were more sensitive to the subtler vibrations of the cosmos, you too could participate in and observe that which goes on in the more magical side of life. It would become part of your everyday reality. And there are some people who say we are moving closer as a planet, as a collective. The collective consciousness is becoming more sensitive to this so-called mystical, magical side of life. I think this is true. You can see it in our art. We are becoming more appreciative of the surreal and the abstract, and even the absurd. The absurd is a way sometimes for us to make humor out of, or to make some kind of sense out of the chaos. And so then, what is a fae? What is a fairy? And why should you never lie to a fairy? I said earlier that a fairy is a being whose most dense form manifests in the astral plane. Human beings, we have our earthly sense organs, so we have these very dense bodies of flesh. But fairies, they don't have bodies that exist in these kind of really slow, dense vibrations that we call earth plane. If fairies have souls, those souls don't get to experience and harvest and collect information from these lower density planes. They exist only in the astral. So a fairy has a body that exists in the astral plane. A fairy has its whole existence based in a certain region of the great electromagnetic bandwidth or spectrum. And so in our so-called everyday reality, our consensus reality, our earthling reality, we don't really see fairies. Not like we see each other, not like we see the cars going down the street. We would need to access our astral bodies and learn to use our psychic senses in order to observe fairies. Children are more adept at this skill. Why? Well, I think it's because they are closer to the source and they have not yet been conditioned to ignore their psychic senses. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, human beings have been conditioned to lose touch with their psychic sense organs. We talk about the pineal gland, of course, but I think there could be more to it than that. I think having a basic knowledge of what the pineal gland does is just the tip of the iceberg. I think that represents a whole new frontier for science to explore. The magical side of life and the occult, it all just represents a domain of knowledge that three-dimensional science has yet to interpret. And yet we have UFO sightings and aliens and structures underneath the pyramids. We have whole systems and institutions that seem to be on the verge of collapse. And so what gives? Is there a collective crisis of consciousness currently underway? And when I say crisis, I don't necessarily mean catastrophe. A crisis is a point of change where all the change occurs in one big crescendo. This is the tipping point, after which everything will be different. Some people don't like change because they want to stay ingrained in, entrenched even, in their little bunker of reality. But you can learn to loosen up and expect the unexpected and to get rid of or gradually shed all of your preconceived notions about what reality is. It's easier to do this when you realize that the only real thing you have is awareness. You really only have your soul, which is a piece of technology from the most high realms. The soul was brought here and put into an earthly body so that it could play the game of being separate from God. The soul collects unlimited information, and so it's separated from God so that it could collect information in a state of amnesia. And when it collects enough information about the earth plane, the astral plane, and the solar plane, and mental plane, and all these different planes, after it collects so much information, after the soul gets so fat with knowledge and experience, it can simply, and it probably has no choice but to just ascend back up, or rather back into union with the Creator. And along the way we have fairies. Why should you not lie to a sprite? Because you can't. It's futile. On the astral plane, deception becomes much more difficult because we will all see each other from the inside out rather than from the outside in, meaning that our lies never stand a chance. Lies rely on the illusory forms of reality. They rely on facades. They rely on distractions, and distractions rely on outward appearance. But if you see something from the inside out, a lie is meaningless. You already know the essence of the truth. You already know exactly what a thing is. And so if you lie to a fairy, which is a being on the astral plane, you are basically playing yourself. It's futile. Fairies, in my opinion, have a kind of trickster energy to them. Would you really want to lie to somebody like that? In order to grow, you must realize how futile it is to hold on to anything besides your soul. The experience is all that matters. The great stream of experience flowing through and around you. Go downstream rather than flowing upstream. There are some people who try to swim upstream on this great adventure of life. They want to swim all the way back to source. They want to resist the great flow. And when you get back to source in this fashion, what do you do? What's the end game? I've talked a lot about how service to self is the key, or excuse me, how service to others is the key to perfect joy. Perfect joy is deep and everlasting. Your responsibility in this world is to figure out what your unique gift is, and then figure out how you can use it to uplift humanity. Do not go on exerting your help onto others. Rather, be a person who is available when others need you. Make yourself available, but don't go on pushing your assistance onto people, because then you are gratifying your ego. This is the perfect way to joy. It's a necessary ingredient. There may be other aspects to joy, and there are probably other contributing factors, but one of the most essential factors in living a joyful life on a daily basis, achieving the most consistent, deep, intense, and prolonged joy, is figuring out how to give yourself to the world. Don't worry about running out. Don't worry about pouring from an empty cup. It'll never happen, because for so long as you are giving yourself to the world, you will be receiving everything that you need. You'll get everything back. Everything that you need, you'll get it all back. So long as you are properly giving your gifts away. Now you have to make yourself open to receive as well. Be open to receiving abundance and give it all back. How do you properly give your gifts away? Every day, I recommend setting some kind of ritual for yourself. It can be any ritual you want. It can be a prayer. You can pray to a deity, a god, an angel, or perhaps even a demon. Know yourself first before you engage in prayer with another entity. Ask that entity for help. Ask that entity to help you find joy in giving your gifts to others. A self-centered person will not find real joy. A self-centered person will find only breadcrumbs. A world-centered person will find joy. So it becomes, how do we shift our consciousness from me, to we. How do you become world-centered? How do you focus on giving your gifts away rather than taking from everybody? It's gradual. I'll say that. It is a gradual transformation of the self. Imagine that you are a vessel. And your duty is to form yourself into a proper vessel that can channel the light beams from above. Your specific personality and gifts, your unique cosmic fingerprint will determine what kind of vessel you are. And what kind of vessel you are will determine how the light refracts through you and reflects off of you onto the world. It will determine how the light shines through you. And soon you will realize that we are all different kinds of vessels. We all have different facets, and so we will all refract and reflect the light in different ways. And so your job is to figure out what your gift is, and then pray. Create a ritual a daily reminder, a daily dedicating each day to giving your gift away. I like to use prayer. I'm not a religious person. I'm a spiritual person. Spiritual people still pray. I like to pray and ask that I might be better and better every single day at forming myself into the kind of person who experiences the most perfect joy by simply giving their gifts to the world. I ask that I will be reminded to do what is right, and that I will be uplifted and inspired and encouraged on this path. I ask for guidance from the divines, that slowly but surely I become the kind of person who experiences joy by giving and sharing my light with the world. I seek not to exert my light onto anyone, but rather to create an atmosphere where people may come up for air if they so choose, if they need a break from this reality. So figure out what your gift is and give it away. It could be time. Figure out how to properly use your energy in such a way that you are maximizing and optimizing your gifts. Play your role and play it the best you can, and open yourself up to receiving blessings. A person who receives endlessly but does not give will find that their blessings turn to rot. This will create spiritual diseases and abominations, psychic aberrations, an eternal collection of blessings, taking. It all turns to rot if it's not given back. All things must circulate through you and out. Don't block the flow. And do not give endlessly without receiving. Don't be a martyr. Allow yourself to be helped. Allow yourself to receive blessings from the world. Do not be so proud that you can't receive blessings, that you can't accept gifts. It must circulate. Circulate your blessings. It feels just as good to receive as it does to give away. Remember, the experience is a living, breathing, ever-changing, ever-moving, ever-circulating process. It's not designed to be bottled up and put on the trophy case for your ego to admire, because your ego will never be satisfied. There could never be enough space on the trophy shelf for your ego to be satisfied. That's an idol. Those are idols. That's idol worship. And it's an itch that cannot be satisfied. It's a hunger that cannot be satiated. It's a thirst that cannot be slaked. Forego the ambition of the ego. align with the soul's purpose, which is an ever-expanding process of growth upwards and outwards and inwards forever. Grow into God and allow God to grow inwards within you. This is how we reach union with the divine. And it's perfect. Along the way, it's easier to do this if you learn how to forgive yourself for the little things that you do and the big things. But all the big things are little things in comparison to the great design. Never lie to a sprite, and never lie to yourself. Possess less and experience more. See the other person from the inside out. Let their emotions wash over you, but do not carry their baggage for them. For that is their burden, that is their responsibility, and it is their right. You have no right to carry another person's burden for them. You have no right to deny them their challenge. And yet, if they cry out for help, be there for them. Help them lift the baggage only if they cry out for help. And at that point, show mercy. When you are sitting at the bottom of the well, there is no amount of climbing that can get you out. You must phase out and ascend upwards. It is so effortless. Become so light that you have no choice but to float upwards and out of the pit of suffering and into the perfect frequency of paradise. Tap into gratitude. Then tap into joy. And finally tap into love. Spiral upwards. Let go and experience the majesty of love. I thank you very much for being here with me on this day. I hope you enjoyed this picture and this video. And until next time, everybody, stay blessed and peace, peace, peace.